Today I want to talk about the 5 steps that you go through to prepare for auditions. They're the same steps that I went through to prepare for all of my successful auditions at the New World Symphony and then at the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. I took 10 years of auditions and usually getting rejected for like the first 7 years of that process. When you feel that feeling of getting an audition rejection, you feel disappointed, you feel shocked, you feel sad, and you just don't know what to do. You kind of feel helpless. I put so much effort into this. Is this a measurement of who I am as a person? Is this who I am now? Am I just a bad player? Every time I went through that process, I had that feeling. Eventually you're gonna get out of it and you're gonna get to the point where you're thinking, okay, instead of just focusing on why that was bad, why don't I focus on what I can do better next time? You can't measure yourself by how you did at an audition. What you're defined by, what's gonna come with you from audition to audition from year to year, is how you grow your audition preparation process. You get a rejection and then you grow it and you do it a little bit differently next time in order to hopefully have a better audition next year. So for those of you who are auditioning this year, who have auditioned for summer festivals and maybe gotten some rejections, I wanna explain through the 5 steps that I go through that I ended up with. I spent, around 7 years doing it wrong and making tweaks. Anytime that there was a weakness in my chain of actions, going from the moment I get the list until the moment of the audition day, anytime that there was something wrong with that process, I get a rejection. And it wasn't until I had developed an audition process that every step along the way addressed my biggest problems, usually nerves and performance anxiety and soft snare drum. If I could work out the exact process that I put excerpts through in order to prepare them so that I could trust them on audition day, that's when I started seeing success, when I put together this process into a step-by-step list. So I actually made this list of steps that I go through. It's called the audition cheat sheet. It's something that you can download from my website at robknopper.com/audition cheat sheet. And I want to go through the main points, the main 5 tasks that I advise you to go through while you're preparing for auditions. First one is to get organized. My teachers always said, spend a week getting organized. Get all the music for your excerpts, get all the recordings together. When you actually jump into the room to practice, you want to have a background. You want to have an understanding of how these pieces go. You also want to have a plan. Get your audition playlist together, get recordings of the music, and schedule your audition prep. Make sure that you know what you're going to do and when. You can look down the line between now and the audition day. You can basically say okay, this week I'm going to do this, this, and this. This next week I'm going to prepare my solo and I'm going to learn my snare drum excerpt. The week after that I'm going to learn all my mallet excerpts, self-recording, and then mock auditions. And then that's how you can be more confident, not going to get to audition day and feel that feeling of oh no, I forgot to study Beethoven. You know that feeling. I know you know that feeling. I feel that feeling all the time. But just having that nice organization time is great to get over that. After you've gotten organized, then you do what's the biggest part of your practice, the meat of your audition preparation, which is to learn the notes. Now, a lot of people do this in a way that's actually harmful for their excerpts. Here's what learning notes incorrectly looks like. You go into the practice room, you put the music on the stand, you run the piece again, you choose a few measures and you repeat those measures, you run it again, repeat it again line by line. What happens is, the first time when you sight read a line or a measure or an excerpt or an etude, you basically choose a bunch of random ways to play that excerpt. Your hands automatically adjust, but it's not even necessarily the easiest way. It's just the first way you think of playing it. And basically, you start to teach yourself how to play it in the wrong way, the sight reading way. But what I find is that instead of approaching it from sight reading it and tweaking, I approach it from the inside out. I really focus on every note and understanding and adjusting every note to my liking and building it out from there. Think about it like this. Every note has a variety of characteristics. If you take one single 16th note, well, it has the dynamic, forte, and maybe it has a pitch, G sharp. Sure, but that's not all that there is about that. A note is not just pitch, rhythm, and dynamic. No, there's a specific place on the bar. There's a specific amount of velocity. There's like a journey that your hand goes through in order to go from the previous note to that note and to touch it with the exact amount of pressure at the exact amount of time. Every single note is completely unique. And instead of letting your hands figure all that out on its own, what I do is I decide on all that stuff before I start learning the excerpt. I learn it one note at a time. Now, maybe what works better for you is slow practice. Maybe what works better for you is learning it 1/4 note worth of 16th notes at a time, and then another 4 16th notes and another 4 16th notes. But what I'd urge you to do is start to dig into those notes and instead of just sight reading your way through it over and over, build it up from scratch, either from one note at a time, putting it together, or one beat or one measure at a time at least. After I learn the notes, then I go into self-recording. That's step 3. Thing about practicing an excerpt by yourself in the practice room is that you're playing it and you're listening to yourself play it at the same time, which means you're focusing on the actual execution. The problem with that is that you're so focused on the execution that you can't actually fully hear what you're doing. You can hear it, but you're gonna miss stuff. You're gonna forget about it as you're playing it because you're so focused on the physical motion of playing it. What I do to really polish excerpts is I record myself and I listen back. And instead of analyzing what problems are there based on when I'm actually playing, I find problems by listening back to the recording. Because when I'm listening to the recording, I'm fully focused, listening and observing and understanding what I did and what I wish was better about it. After I self-record, I go to step 4, which is mock auditions. Mock auditions are where you play for somebody, you get their comments, and you practice performing. So I've done a couple videos about mock auditions before. You can check out the video I made called How to Stop Shaking When You're Playing Soft Snare Drum. Basically what you want to do is you want to experience performing. So you put yourself in this realistic audition situation where it feels like a real audition and you make yourself nervous because you want to start getting nervous well ahead of the actual audition. You want to be nervous 6 weeks before the audition, not on the day of the audition. So if you can do like daily mock auditions, not only can you force yourself to feel those nerves so that it gets easier and easier, but also you can start basically bouncing your ideas off of a lot of people. You can never fully know what the committee wants to hear from you. All you can do is like play for a bunch of people and see what they think about your playing. If you use that information to adjust from there, to adjust your excerpts, adjust your approach, think of comments, it's sort of like self-recording, but instead of you listening to your excerpts, it's a whole bunch of other people listening to your excerpts. You can make more progress by playing for a lot of people rather than just being in your own bubble and listening to yourself. Finally, step 5 is actual audition day. Now, a lot of people think, you should really try to do your best that day. But what I think is every performance is going to be a little bit different and it's kind of random. Like you might play your best, you might play your mediumist, and you might play your worst. Basically, there's just preparing and doing as much work in advance as you possibly can on audition day. Just let yourself play however you play. You might play badly, but the idea is to prepare in a way so that the bad version of how you play is better than the bad version of how anyone else is playing that day. You might miss a few notes here and there, but if you've done enough work on putting all the notes rhythmically into the right place, and you've done a lot of work on making every single note sound tonally consistent, all the accents are coming out, you have great phrasing installed into your muscle memory, your worst is going to be way better than a lot of people's best. And that's the goal. So all you do on audition day is you just show up and you just observe yourself. You're just like, okay, so what am I doing? How do I feel? What am I gonna do differently next time? And you wanna record yourself so that you can listen back to the recording and make a plan for how to do better in your audition preparation for next time. So again, this whole process, I laid it out in this audition cheat sheet. You can check that out at robknopper.com/audition cheat sheet. And here's the thing, I wanna know from you, out of all of those steps that I just said, what don't you do? If you think you do everything that you possibly can, maybe you do a lot of these things, but what haven't you been doing? Maybe it's mock auditions, maybe it's self-recording. Maybe you're self-recording, but you're not self-recording enough. So let me know in the comments. I wanna hear from you because I wanna know what you're gonna try next time. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe to the channel. One thing I wanna mention before I go is that I'm gonna be hosting a summer festival, an online summer festival where I teach a course. It's gonna be called the Audition Hacker Formula Summer Festival, which is my complete step-by-step guide to learning how to prepare for auditions. And I'm gonna be hosting it. It's gonna be live. There's gonna be a lot of interaction, weekly sessions where you learn this stuff and we get together and talk about it. Basically, I wanna do everything I can this summer so that you can get better at your audition preparation. If you downloaded the audition cheat sheet, that means you're on my email list, and I'm gonna get back to you with a little bit more information in the coming weeks. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.